So we're missing Paula. All right.
No, she won't. I was watching my kid play baseball. That's what I was.
Yeah, I'm debating whether or not how to handle that. Well, they're all here except for like 5 or 6. You don't even have to sit down. All right, we'll call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Mrs. Lawson, could we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Bennett. Mrs. Eckerd.
Here.
Mr. Franco.
Here.
Mrs. Goebel.
Here.
Dr. O'Sherrick.
Here.
Mr. Burke.
Here.
Mr. Farr.
Here.
Mrs. Arnold.
Here. All right, we're going to start things off with a student spotlight. Our robotics team is here for their annual demonstration and to show off all the gold. So we'll turn it over to you guys and gals.
Hello, my name is Emily Campbell, and I'm a student on the Tigertrons. I found a home in the public relations and electrical teams. My mentors are Al Diamond, Scott Campbell, and Miss Sick. Tonight I get to tell you a little bit about what we do, who we are, and how we do it. I'm going to start by showcasing some of our students. We have a very eclectic team, so I'm going to ask our 8th graders to stand up to be recognized. Yay. Our 9th graders. Our 10th graders. Our 11th graders are currently on the class trip, so they are not here right now. Then we have our 12th graders. I'd like to tell you all a little bit about our team history before we get started. So the school initially became involved in FIRST Robotics in 1997. So we participated in a team called the Littles with several other schools. In 1999, we found that so many students in our school loved the idea of learning about STEM that we created our own team, the Tigertrons. Soon we became Team 222, and we've stayed that way since then. We work in association with classes during the school day and after school to create a team that has an amazing mix of electrical, programming, mechanical, and public relations teams. Most of our meetings are after school, and a large portion of them happen during the 6 weeks that we call our build season, where we build our robot that you can see right over there. We then attend at least 2 district competitions in hopes of qualifying for a regional and then a worldwide competition. I would like to take a brief moment to recognize our sponsors who have helped us along the way to become the team that we are now. So the Tunkhannock Area School District, the TRBC, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, Foth, Gaiety Communications, Williams, the Dennis Strong Post of the American Legion, the Thompson family, and the other amazing groups that have helped us this year and in past years. Because of the help from our supporters, we've been able to build robots for the past 26 to 28 years. This year, we participated in a game called Crescendo. We were able to bring home a blue banner, which is the reward that we get for winning a district competition. That competition was Mount Olive. We were facing over 30 teams. We ended up in 2nd place, and then we were picked by another team to compete in finals, where we won, brought home that first place award, and we were also able to bring home the Industrial Design Award from Mount Olive and Montgomery this year. We qualified for the district competition this year as well, which was an amazing accomplishment for us. And now I would like to bring up one of my teammates, Eric, who's going to tell you a little bit more about our robot and a little more about our game. So Eric.
Hello, my name is Eric Arndt. I am a 10th grader, and on the team I am the main driver and I do mechanical. So our robot this year is named Yogi after the late John Thompson, who was a big supporter, as Emily had mentioned. One of the key features of our robot this year is the under the bumper intake. So that we've gone through 3 iterations before we came up with that design. It is very fast, it is very effective. We almost always win when we're picking up those notes, which are the game pieces, when we're against another team grabbing it, and it is very cost effective. So another big thing that you will see demonstrated is our climbing mechanism. So it is using a gas strut to push it up to the chain that we will climb on, and then it is a winch system that will pull it back down, and it works very flawlessly in around 3 seconds. There's a lot of other technologies, like our drive base is now a swerve this year, so we can go around 17 feet per second around the field. We can go in whatever direction we want to go with whatever orientation of the robot we want to be in, and overall we have just improved on earlier design processes that we have done in earlier years, and just been getting better and better every single year. That's all for me personally. Thank you for listening. I would like to invite Maddie on to talk about programming.
Hi, my name is Maddie McCrossan, and I am one of our programmers. And I bet you're looking at that thing and you're wondering, how is it doing that? Well, it needs a brain to do it, and that's where programming gets involved. While mechanical, electrical, and design are all working on making and putting the robot together, you'll see our programmers hunched over in front of a laptop writing out code or the brain of the robot. There are tons of things we do for Yogi. We program everything from the 15-second autonomous period to the button bindings on our driver's controllers. How do we do this? We use a program called VS Code and use the Java language. To start writing the code is the easy part. The amount of times the robot doesn't like it isn't. I can't even count how many times something has happened to Yogi, and the team looks over at us to fix it. And that's what we're here for. My team members and I are here to show you how amazing this little guy is and how special robotics is in itself. We wouldn't be able to have these memories, experiences, and challenges without all of you here today, our sponsors, and all the other people supporting us. We wouldn't be a team without our students and our mentors. My mentors, Garrett Giverson and Eric Chance, taught me everything that I know about programming all in this year. I and all of our programmers found a love for it in this team. So thank you. Thank you for spending your time here today and listening to us. Thank you. And now I will introduce Yogi itself and our amazing students. I would like to introduce drivers Liv and Eric, human player Aiden, technician Brandy, and our first year student and 8th grader Dylan.
Okay, I get the pleasure of explaining a little bit of what's going on while we do our demo, because it can get a little crazy. Right now you can see that we turned our robot on. One of the cool things about our bot this year is we have a lot of LEDs on the top strip. Our programmers worked really hard to be able to develop a code for that. Right now, Our driver, Eric, is practicing with our notes. It's a very intricate system to get lined in to get into that game piece. Our human player, Aiden, is holding it. That's called our amp.
I
As you
appreciate that
can
it has the mobility of an IKEA shopping cart to go in any direction.
That's one of the amazing things we started this year. Though for all time and eternity, we have used a tank drive. This year, we decided to switch to a swerve. It's given us the ability to learn so many new things and achieve so much more on the field. So you can see we're picking up our game pieces called notes, and we're getting ready to shoot. The reason that we can pick up notes like that is we have, like Eric mentioned, a ground intake. So we drive up, we pick up a note. It stops in our intake because we use a special thing called a beam brake, similar to things that you see on like garages, because as soon as something hits that invisible like infrared laser, it stops. So we can make sure our note sits there until we're ready to shoot, so everything is exactly how we want it. We minimize risks of missing our shots, and we make sure everything looks amazing and is incredibly safe. Let's see. And I think this is gonna be one of the last notes that we shoot into that amp. Gonna do one more. Okay. Now, as you can see, our drivers are moving this arm in the middle of our robot. That's what we use to hang. So this year, we have a thing called an end game. You have to drive up to a chain that's suspended in one of our game pieces called a stage. So we have to go up to that chain, latch onto it, and pull ourselves up. And we need to be not touching the ground when the game ends in order to achieve points and get ranking points. So that is that system. Now I'm gonna call up, we're gonna do a little thing for our seniors. They're gonna tell you about their time on the team. So we're gonna start with Liv, who is our co-driver. Just gonna make our way over here.
Hello, I am Liv Forba. I am a senior, and I work under the mentor Cliff Mock as one of the mechanical students, and I help drive the robot with my fellow student Eric. I've been on the team since 2020, since our school offers the option to join as an 8th grade student, considering we are a club and First allows it, which is the organization that hosts the competitions that we compete in. I've been driving the robot since end of season of 2021. We've won 2 competitions, not including off seasons, that I have driven for. I also help with the strategy part of matches, considering we have 2 teams that get randomized every time we have a match that we have to partner with. So I usually go around and talk to them about what we want to do during the match. So there's a lot of communication that's needed. And I also have to communicate with my driver while driving the robot. Overall, great opportunity. Love the support at the school. It's great environment to be in. I probably know everybody personally on the team, and I hope it can inspire other students in the future to join the team and learn more about technology and engineering. I'm going to invite Caden up, who's our other senior.
Thank you, Liv. Hi, my name is Caden Esser, and I am a part of the mechanical team for Tigertrons. This robot is definitely one of the most impressive things I've helped to build. I can't believe that I will be walking away sometime next year saying, I built that. And thank you, all of you, because without you guys, this would not have been done. I have learned a lot of things this year. Friendship, trust, A lot of this comes from you guys. You're all my friends, everybody in this room. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caden, and we all love having you on the team. We're gonna miss all of our seniors. This kind of ends our presentation for you guys. Is there any questions, anything you guys want to know? All good?
That was really cool.
Yeah,
Really cool.
Okay.
Well done.
We have some certificates of recognition for you guys from the board, so I'll come down there to you guys. I know that there are people that we have certificates for who are not here, so you guys will have to help me with some of those because I'm looking across the faces. It's like I know several of these kids, and I know some of the kids that aren't here, but there's probably about 8 that I couldn't quite put together. So we'll start with Caden Esser. You got it. Thank you. Livia Forba. Madison McCrossan. Thank you. Eric Arndt. Thank you. Congratulations on a great season. Alexander Sudan. Dylan Manning. I want to point out, I don't know, did we have 8th graders on this team prior to consolidation? We did? Oh. Not that compete, but since we have them on since we're in one building now, they can be officially on the team. That's great. All right, Emily Campbell. Great job, congratulations. Wyatt Geitler.
He's not here today.
Brandy Heckman. Aiden Miller. Aiden Paulman. Connor Teal. All right. Quinn Thomas. I think I might have done all right. Hannah Milner. I knew Hannah, I didn't see her. And Cora Milner. And Alexis Harding, I believe is at Hershey, right? Along with Hannah. All right, well, thank you guys and gals for a great season. You guys make us proud. This has been a program that has existed to Tunkhannock prior to even when I graduated here. So it's been a long tradition, and I'm glad to see such a robust group of talented kids getting involved in this. So not just from your ability to drive robots and build brains and whatnot, but to come up and present in front of all of us, because you know it's not just us, it's on YouTube, so you'll be able to go watch yourself later and critique it if you want to. But you all did great, and you make us very proud, so round of applause.
That seemed at graduation.
Look at that efficiency. Oh, and the 8th grader has to carry it out. I see. All right, all right. All right, well, as we move along, do we have any superintendent's remarks this evening?
We do.
Oh, imagine that.
It's funny because John just said it, and I couldn't say it better. Like, this is what school's about. Like, this makes me so happy, like, to see our kids excelling in something like this. I mean, it's dynamic what they do with the robot, but then to get them up in public speaking, this is what it's all about. Good evening. I'm always happy to have the chance to address our community and the school board. I try to use this time to promote our students and the school district and provide, clarification on recent or pending items. Last month, or a couple months, I shouldn't even say last month, about 3 months ago now, the board took the proactive step to approve a solar energy project on our campus. Currently, we budget about $1 million a year for energy. There was about 1.5 years of discussions that preceded this vote. Public discussions, correct. Not only at monthly board meetings, but also at multiple buildings and grounds committee meetings. We conducted multiple site visits. We gathered lots and lots of information from school districts that had already walked this path. We also engaged an independent engineer to oversee a potential project and an independent solar energy consultant and law firm to examine the project, recalculate and confirm expected savings, and vet the contract with the solar company. All research and data supported the plan. Once implemented, and we're probably about 1 year out, the solar arrays are expected to reduce energy costs by at least $750,000 a year. I'd like to thank the many people in our community, in the school district, that have spoken to me in support of this financial savings, of this project. I can't emphasize enough, the decision to utilize solar arrays is a financial decision. Everyone is aware that about 2 years ago, if everybody remembers, electricity costs went through the roof. They absolutely skyrocketed, and everybody felt that. Ours just about doubled as a school district. We went from we had an unbelievable price, I think about 3.9 cents a kilowatt, to now we're about 8 cents a kilowatt. When that occurred, we immediately sat down and said, we got to find an alternative that's going to provide stability and protection from the future inflation of energy, because it's not going to go the other way. Here's something I could, without question, share. If we don't find a way to curb those costs, there's no doubt that an increased burden is going to be put on our taxpayers. As we all know, social media, it can be toxic, right? It's not all positive. Oftentimes, information is posted that is incomplete or inaccurate. The same happened yesterday with an ad that was in our local paper. Yesterday there was an anonymous ad placed in the paper about our solar project. And quite honestly, it was inaccurate. There is no solar vote, right? So people that were expecting a solar vote because the ad said that, it's not true. There is no solar vote. That vote happened 3 months ago. Not one item on our agenda tonight is about solar energy. To help provide accurate information to our stakeholders, a few months ago, and I announced this, and we set up an email account specifically to address any questions about our solar project. It's still there. It's still being monitored. It's solar@tasd.net. We monitor the account daily still, and we respond in a timely manner. If you have questions, ask. We'd be happy to answer your questions. We'll happily respond. I'd like to thank the board for their forward financial thinking, and approving a project that has the potential to really provide some cost savings. Last week, our special ed department hosted a fun day, and I know Director Farr was there, for students with special needs, and 7 local school districts also came and participated on our campus. Students had such a good time. I'd like to recognize our Assistant Special Education Director, Deb Sherman. She organized the event, and it was an exceptional day. Another exciting announcement, about an hour ago, our softball team was victorious in the second round of the district playoffs. They will play for a district championship next Wednesday. I think it's at the University of Scranton. I think it's going to be at 6 o'clock, but I'll confirm all that, and once I was able to confirm all the information, I will share that with all of our stakeholders. I know we'll have a huge crowd there. Also this weekend, we have 2 student athletes that are competing in the Pennsylvania State Track and Field State Championships in Shippensburg. What makes it even more special is the 2 student athletes that qualified for us, they're brothers. Great athletes. Good luck to Andrew and William Lipinski. We're all rooting for you. We certainly hope they make the podium, and we're very proud. We had a drumline send-off for them yesterday, or 2 days ago.
I believe this is Andrew's first year, at least as a high school student, on the track and field team.
Correct.
And if I understand correctly, the triple jump heat started a couple weeks before districts,
Correct.
and now he's in Shippensburg.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It's very impressive.
You've seen Andrew jump, you shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
This upcoming Monday is Memorial Day. On this day, we honor and mourn the U.S. military personnel that died while serving in the United States Armed Forces. Excuse me. Here in Tunkhannock, we mark the holiday with a parade, followed by a ceremony at the courthouse. Our Tiger Band will be participating in both the parade and at the courthouse, so please consider attending the parade and supporting the Memorial Day parade and the courthouse ceremony on Monday morning. And finally, this next Friday is graduation, May 31st. The last day of school will be May 30th, but next Friday, May 31st, starting at 7 p.m. is high school graduation. Tickets are not needed. I'm very hopeful that the weather will cooperate. Last year was a little bit of an adventure, but we did it. And I certainly invite the entire community to come and celebrate the class of 2024. We'd love to have you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do want to just add one more note to what Superintendent Doherty was saying about the solar and the electric savings, because a couple themes that I've seen recurring out there were that taxes should have stayed at 0 or gone down after consolidation, and will they stay the same forever or go down after a solar project? And I think it's important that people understand that when we take these actions, it's to try and keep the costs from rising so fast that there's no possible way we could keep up. But at no time, just knowing how things work financially with inflation and the changes in costs to other things, and at no time were we ever trying to portray that taxes would ever stay the same forever or go down when we take these measures. What we're trying to do is stop the bleed, essentially. And there have been a lot of really effective measures for that, because our tax increases at Tunkhannock have pretty consistently been, I'm sure we'll see the numbers again in June, pretty consistently been less than that of districts around us when you look at what the percentage rate increase is. So while it's certainly our goal to raise them as minimally as possible, there have been years we've done 0. There was a year that you could technically say that we gave a tax break because we did away with the per capita tax and we did a 0 tax increase. So, one tax went away and we didn't raise the other one. But right now, we're just trying to take steps to mitigate having to raise our taxes to the index every year, which is the maximum that we can do without basically like a voter referendum. We haven't come close to that in any of the years that I've been on the board. I think the highest we've ever had was a 2 since I've been on the board, 2 mills. And when you think about some of the losses to the district, just the Walmart and the P&G that we've talked about lots of times, that was the equivalent of 2 mills plus that the district lost in funding from property taxes. So we're doing everything we can to keep that up, but I just wanted to clear that up because I see it come up in multiple comments on social media every time there's, discussion about these things. Our goal is just to stop the bleed as much as possible and still provide a quality education for the kids at a, cost to the taxpayers that isn't going to be that of some of our local neighboring districts, every year with those increases. So with that, I want to announce that we had an executive session prior to this meeting. The topics were the annual review of safety and security protocol as required by PDE, and a legal matter regarding specific students' settlement and release agreements that are up for vote today. With that, we're going to open the floor to public comment. We will have 2 public comment periods this evening. The first one now is going to be on agenda items only, so it has to be on a subject that's listed on the agenda for tonight. And then the second comment period at the end will be on any other subject that you might want to discuss, or even agenda items again. Everybody who comes up to speak gets 4 minutes to speak, and you have to be a resident, taxpayer, employee, student, or parent of a TASD student to speak. So without any further ado, is there any public comment on agenda items?
Hi, my name is Barbara Lacey. I live in Washington Township in Tunkhannock. I'm sorry I was running late. I took care of the farm, it's a long story, but I missed all the information that you went over about the solar project. I've seen a lot of information. I just wanted to get it from you because I don't have time to go through the multitude of information and rumors, and I just want to try to stop the rumor about the natural gas. Did you discuss that? I just ran in. So they were saying that we were exploring natural gas, and then HVAC systems would have to be comparable for that. And then we also have the solar project. Is that true?
Chime in. Right now, all of our buildings are run with electrical power. It's on electricity.
Well, you mean have electric in general? Not the
Right now,
HVAC.
everything
Sorry.
we do is electricity, even heating the pool. We are running a gas line this summer, but you're right. So we're running some big HVAC projects this summer, like we're going to do the auditorium, we're going to do a new HVAC ventilation system in the pool, the gymnasium. We're doing the same at the intermediate center and at the primary center. The one at the primary center will be electric because there's really not a feasible way right now for us to get a gas line there. The one here and there, since it's a new unit, we could use natural gas. But all the HVAC systems in all the classrooms here all run on electricity. So if we converted the whole building to natural gas, we would need to replace the entire HVAC system.
Is that currently budgeted for, was that already in the budget that was proposed? I would imagine this isn't something you decided to do this year.
Oh,
It was
no,
probably,
this
and it
is-
was already paid for, the money was allocated for that?
Correct.
So it won't be any new expenditures, capital improvements for
You're
this
actually correct.
24,
Most of that
25.
money for the HVAC upgrades that we're doing this summer were through our ARP ESSER grant, all the COVID money that the federal government put out. One of the things you could use it for was HVAC improvements, and that's what I think I want to say about, John Shapolsky, correct me if I'm wrong, about $2.9 million of that money went directly into an HVAC project.
But that HVAC is going to be for the big rooms here, the cafeteria, the gym, the auditorium, the pool. Every single individual classroom still has electric heat, and it will continue to still have electric heat. There's no plan or budget to change those from electric heat because it is so astronomically high to do that, because there's no ductwork. There's nothing in this building, so you'd have to run all ductwork, buy all the HVAC, have all that. So it's not for here or the PC. The heat in the classrooms and other common areas that aren't getting the new HVAC will still be electric.
So you're saying that at the beginning for the 24-25 school year, with the solar, assistance, the help that we're going to save by having solar, because that will be up and running for the new school year? Is that?
No, it'll probably be the following school year, or maybe even a little later.
We'll see what the gas savings is going to be, to help with the heating, and that's where a lot of the electricity was going.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that should
But we're
be a
still
big
going to have
cut.
heating on electricity. There's still going to be a lot of heating on electricity.
But there'll be a large
There'll be
section
some
of
more,
it.
yes, there will be some that's on gas, but there's some that are pretty much at this point indefinitely planned to be electric heat.
Right.
Um,
So I'm just trying to understand so I'm assuming that we'll see in time if the cost of doing the solar will actually be beneficial when we're saving with the gas, or it would be a group kind of thing that we're going to be like our budget won't have to be allocated so much that we'll have a cost savings and it'll reflect back to the taxpayers, because, that's ultimately, and that's another subject I wanted to bring
Well,
up.
it'll be reflected in the sense that it won't raise as fast or as high. I mean,
Right.
we're not going to claim that taxes won't go up at all at any point because we're doing this project. But because we're doing up this project, they will go up less. Because even if you say our electric bill's $1 million a year, and if this project ended up costing us $10 million out of pocket at some point, which it probably won't, because we're going to get grants and things like that back. But if it saves us $1 million a year, they're saying we'll get how many years out of the solar panels? 40. But even if we only got half that, we'll still get back $10 million on top of the 10 that we spent. So that's a
So the
half.
payback, it will, by the time that the solar panels have to be replaced, the payback will be there.
We should have saved $30 million if everything pans out that way. So even if there's a gap or something isn't as we expect it to be, by even half, we still saved $15 million. But we expect it to be higher than that, and it's proved out at other places that it should be.
Right, and I know you mentioned about other school districts. We do have some larger school districts, although we have some smaller. I haven't looked at how their taxes are going up. I do have coworkers that work in other districts, and they're not seeing the same increases in taxes in the smaller school districts as we are. We have Dallas and Lehman and all of those in that end, and they're much larger districts. A lot more students, buildings, like
I believe our taxes have actually gone up less than theirs by,
Oh, I know, Dallas would go up, and,
yeah. So, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, because we're all taxpayers too. So I
Right.
don't want to pay any more taxes, and neither
Right.
does anybody else.
You don't want to have to look at your neighbors and then say, I'm causing a tax increase again. But what I'm saying, last year I spoke about the increase in taxes and the concern, because, even last year, it's not as bad as this year is with jobs, economy. We're not in our district in itself, our school district, the county is, a lower income, retirement age kind of district, and it is a big burden. So last year I was said, oh no, there was in the paper, no increase in school taxes, but then it came in at a meeting after that was stated in the newspaper. Sometime there was another meeting after that statement, and it was put in, but there was no big notice that increase in taxes. If it was in the paper, it was small and no one saw it, that I know. And this year, there was another I saved it, a big article said no increase in property taxes, or in school taxes, I'm sorry, wrong tax. And so I just want to make sure that, we will get notice and know ahead if we're going to get this.
We will, so.
President,
Yeah, I know. I just want to, because I
Is
know
my
that there's
time up?
been.
I'm
I
sorry.
know, but I think we should, first of all, it's not an agenda item.
Yep.
And secondly, it's beyond the time limit.
Right, all right. I will just
Okay.
answer your last question on that, just because it's come up before. In April or whatever, we pass a preliminary budget, and we say at that meeting over and over and over again, this is not the final budget. Final budget is almost always, every year that I've been on the board, it's voted in June. So at the June meeting, we will be voting on a budget. Maybe it's zero, it can't be any other amount other than one of the options that were presented in April, which I believe was 0, 1, and 4 or something, or 0, 1, 2, and 4. I'm sure it's in the meeting minutes, but we will have to pass one of those budgets in June. So at the June meeting, we will be voting on a final budget for the year, and that's when we'll have more information and we can make it more educated. But by statute, we have to vote on a preliminary budget like 60 days out. So that's what happened in April. In June, we'll vote on the final budget.
So that'll also be in the paper, the results of the final budget on the
That'll be the
front
one.
page, just like that. Okay, perfect, thank you.
We don't even know what the state's going to budget for us yet.
Yeah, they haven't
And
passed
we
it.
may
They
not
haven't passed
know
the
until
budget.
the fall, because until they pass the budget, we don't know how much our allocation is from the state. And, keep in mind, every year, my household budget costs go up every year with everything you go out and buy. Go to the
Right.
grocery store, go to Walmart, go buy
Exactly.
anything, everything's up. The same's true for the school. And the biggest driver for the school is the wages, health care, and pension. And those things are mostly out of our control. So those are the biggest drivers. I mean, if we save money on electricity, it's going to be offset by increases in those other areas, the wages, healthcare, and pension. Pension costs are 34% of the salary.
Yeah, the state
You
really
don't
should
see
do
that
something
anywhere in
about that.
private industry.
Yeah,
But the state runs a pension plan.
right, I know, and
So-
the state needs to do something, but this is beyond my time in the scope of the meeting here, but
Thank you. Any other public comment on agenda items? Okay. We have,
Do you have somebody?
oh, sorry, come on up.
Sorry. I just want to formally introduce myself. I'm on the agenda tonight as a staff appointment for elementary teacher. My name is Laura Lunger. And I just want to thank the interview committee, the teachers, administrators that were part of that for a very thorough interview process. And I'm excited to bring my experience and my passion for teaching to the Tunkhannock area and officially become a Tiger. And thank you ahead of time for your vote for my appointment tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction.
All right, any other public comment on agenda items? With that, we have our school psychologist team here to give us a presentation on Mental Health Awareness Month.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Puza, and I'm rounding out my second year as a school psychologist for our district.
And I'm Jennifer Zidanowicz. I'm sorry, I have to adjust that a little bit. I'm Jennifer Zidanowicz. I'm rounding out my 22nd year with Tunkhannock, closing in on 24.
So Jennifer and I had the opportunity to be part of a mental health roundtable over the course of the past school year. Some of these meetings were held right here within the district, as well as off campus at the Dietrich Theater. At these meetings, we discussed available mental health resources in our area, as well as barriers to our families receiving those services. One of the goals of this roundtable was to raise more awareness about mental health. With May being Mental Health Awareness Month, we thought this would be a good time to discuss mental health in our schools. As you know, mental health is a huge topic, and we could probably go on for days discussing current topics and research. However, we are going to do our best to do the topic due diligence in our allotted 10 minutes. I would like to start by providing you with a definition of mental health. As defined by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. In schools, we prioritize three critical and interrelated components of mental health: social, or how we relate to others; emotional, how we feel; and behavioral, how we act, supports to promote overall well-being. Here are some brief national statistics I would like to share with you pertaining to substance use, anxiety, depression, and suicide among children and teens. It is worth noting that these numbers were on the rise even prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. In terms of substance use disorders, in 2022, 48.7 million people aged 12 or older had a substance use disorder in the past year, including 29.5 million who had an alcohol use disorder, 27.2 million who had a drug use disorder, and 8 million who had both. In 2022, adolescents aged 12 to 17 accounted for 2.2 million people with a substance use disorder in the past year. When we look at depression, people used to think that depression only occurred in adults. We now know that children and adolescents can also experience depression. In fact, on average, approximately 3% of children ages 3 to 17 have a diagnosis of depression. That rate increases by 6 to 10% during adolescence. Among adolescents aged 12 to 17 in 2022, 4.8 million had a past year major depressive episode, and 3.6 million had a past year major depressive episode with severe impairment. Adolescents aged 12 to 17 in 2022 with a past major depressive episode were more likely than those without a depressive episode to have used illicit drugs in the past year. When it comes to anxiety, worry and anxiety are regular parts of life, but they can also be indications that your child needs more support. The recognition of anxiety disorders in young people has increased significantly over the past 10 years. Approximately 30% of children and adolescents will experience an anxiety disorder at some point in their young lives. Knowing the signs and seeking professional help when needed will help interrupt the progression that can lead to depression, poor school performance, and substance use. In terms of suicidal thoughts and behavior, suicide is a serious and real concern among children and teens. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among youth ages 10 to 24. Suicide attempts are often related to other mental health conditions, but not always. Particularly among younger children, suicide attempts can be impulsive. Suicidal feelings are treatable with appropriate intervention and support. Among adolescents aged 12 to 17 in 2022, 3.4 million had serious thoughts of suicide, 1.7 million made a suicide plan, and 953,000 attempted suicide in that past year. However, these estimates are likely to be conservative because the questions for respondents aged 12 to 17, including response options such as "I'm not sure" and "I don't want to answer," which were not included in the corresponding questions.
I neglected to thank you all for letting us come and speak on this important topic. In addition to the statistics that Chelsea offered, I also want to emphasize that mental health is just as important as physical health. We would never eat healthy just one day. We would never exercise for one day and think that was going to be longstanding. So just as we would expect, we would instill those practices in our students and our children, we need to do the same for mental health and for ourselves as well. We see many instances of what I just recently heard a term called costly coping, which I thought was a great term. In the school setting, we see behavioral and social difficulties on top of the depression, anxiety, and the suicide attempts that we've talked about, eating disorders and body image issues, and of course, sleep difficulties. Recently, I was reading an article that we don't know the effects of the long-term effects of social media on mental health. We think we do. The research so far has not supported that, without question, but we know the deficits that sleep have and the link to mental health. And we can all name students that we know or people that we know that, whether it's be technology or some other reason, sleep. I tell students sleep deprivation is used for torture for a reason. So let's start addressing some of those things, hopefully. And then, of course, bullying. That's another area that we are seeing. As school psychologists, our experiences have shown an increase in the needs observed in our students. Based on consultations, I've also heard that early childhood facilities are experiencing some of the same concerns. And we're seeing the increase in need related to, daily life stressors, the increase in modern life stressors. They may include stressors at the individual level, at the family level, community level, school level, and of course, our societal levels. I would like to say that the statistics that Chelsea cited come with an awareness that we don't know the actual problem in our community. We don't have that data to share. And I often reflect back as we come to commencement season. I reflect back to the last several years when we've had graduates, and they speak about the toll of their own mental health on, whether it was because of their athletic duties or their student duties or just life in general. They talked about anxiety and spoke about their own personal battles that they've fought. We don't always see those students because we usually see the students that it starts affecting them in some way academically. But there are many students that are high functioning with their anxiety, or they're able to still get through, but they have those tendencies of perfectionism and so forth and so on. Mental health needs fall on a continuum. I recently kind of chuckle because that shingles commercial that they say shingles don't care or shingles doesn't care. I think mental health doesn't care. It affects all socioeconomic status. It affects all different genders, races, ethnicities. It doesn't care. There are disparities among those subgroups, though. So the good news is, as Chelsea mentioned, there are many different treatment options. We have a bunch of different options in the school setting. Would we like more? Of course. But we definitely have a lot of good programs that are addressing some of these areas in our school setting. Just as there are a lot of risk factors, there are a lot of protective factors with mental health needs. So in addition to advocating for practices that address student well-being, which may include school climate and how welcoming the school may feel to students, explicit instruction in self-regulation and coping strategies that may be used when faced with stressors or adversities. We also want to acknowledge the need to emphasize that for educators. Educator burnout is a real thing. The rates are high. We don't see as many students graduating from college to be teachers. So, we do need to address the issues that are occurring in our educators. With regard to the school, in January, with the support of the administration, the school counselors, school nurses, and school psychologists facilitated a wellness day for district personnel. in which we had all sorts of different activities. We surveyed people, said kind of like, what would you be interested in of these kind of ideas we brainstormed. Following that, we completed surveys just to see, what were your preferred activities, what would be some ideas for additional activities, and the results were very favorable, that they would like to continue, of course, those types of activities. It's important, but it's also important to support our educators on a daily basis, because burnout and quiet quitting is real, and we are dealing with it at high levels in the field of education. And we also want to nurture a sense of hope as we go. Other things that we've done within the district to address needs in the mental health domain, we as a group, our school counselors, school psychologists, and of course our drug and alcohol education specialist met, and we revised our grief and trauma plan in the past year. Our plan and information has been shared with others within the LIU 18 and NEIU 19 region, and we've received a lot of positive feedback about it. We had a resource fair earlier in the school year with the pool party at the start of the school year, which highlighted some of the resources in our area. Chelsea mentioned the mental health roundtable. One of the, I'll say, the best sessions that I've experienced, and I've lived in this community now for more than 23 years, but we met at the Dietrich Theater, and all different agencies came and presented what they offered. I didn't know some of those resources, and I've worked in this district for 22 years, so that was a great session. Last year, I was awarded a Rainbow Library from GLSEN. I presented that to the Tunkhannock Library, the community library, to give students who identify as LGBTQ literature that they may find characters in which they may relate to. And as we go forward on the path, it's come to my attention that there is funding being distributed by the state for school safety, security, and mental health. I recently had a conversation with Tina Pickett's office, and she indicated Tunkhannock is scheduled to receive $167,000 related to that. I respectfully request that school mental health professionals are included with key stakeholders when we're deciding on how to use those funds. I realize that there may be criteria involved in how those funds are to be spent, but I'm hoping that we can talk about ways to use that in going forward for our students. I'm hoping that there's a possibility of collaboration, that we can add resources to our website related to mental health topics that parents could access. There is a need for continued education related to the prevention and intervention for mental health and wellness for students, adults, families, educators. And some of that is even just sharing what developmental periods are. We all know teenagers, they're moody. I mean, that's part of their development. But when is moody a problem versus when is it a typical developmental sequelae? We also want to normalize key characteristics, like we all experience anxiety. I'm not super thrilled to be up here speaking, to be honest with you. But how do we cope and go through that? The desire to be involved in action steps moving forward as an advocate for mental health, as a school mental health provider, and then any type of, like, I just saw Chelsea shared a website from the Riverside Public School District just advertised they had a wellness fair, and they had, I don't know, Cammie, do you think it was like 20?
Yeah, there was about 20 vendors there in the back of the school where, and it was just wellness for the kids. Like I brought bubbles and supportive stickers, and the high school kids were thrilled. But there were vendors from like all over, really just to promote wellness in their kids.
And John Aluni has been a wonderful partner in our community as well. Project Aware is something that the IU is fostering. So there are just a lot of different opportunities that I hope that we can, as we go forward, look at. As Chelsea said, our mental health numbers were rising prior to the pandemic, but we all know the pandemic kind of blew the ship out of the water, and we just want to make sure that we are being proactive as much as possible. So thank you again for your time, and we look forward to working with you on this important topic.
I looked at the pieces again, so I didn't want to stop by and explain anything. One is definitely aligned to like safety and security, the criteria, but the other one is for a mental health therapist.
Perfect.
So that is aligned to what you're asking. So you can stop by. I'm more than happy to discuss it with you.
Absolutely. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk about 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. Thank you so much for squeezing so much in there. And I know my fellow board members would like me to stop getting on my soapboxes already tonight, but I am going to jump on this one for a minute because I find myself when I'm looking through the agendas and I see us renewing a contract with a mental health service that we've used forever and is such a great resource to kids. It happens every once in a while because we aren't equipped to deal with all of those in-house all the time. So we've had these third parties. I get a little sick to my stomach because I know that there are factions in the community who look at mental health as a 4-letter word. And it really is unfortunate because everybody has something they can pay attention to. I just received a compliment on the PC this week because of how gently they start their mornings. Somebody happened to be there who isn't usually there, and it was something as simple as just like breathing deep. I wasn't there, I didn't hear it, but they were impressed by that. Mental health is so much more than what it's been politicized to in the media. And it's really important that we find ways to differentiate that so that we're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater on this. So I really appreciate the attention that you brought to this month and all of the work that you all do year-round, because Lord knows we have a lot of need in our community, as do most. And it's not something that people like to talk about out loud. So thank you. All right. Stepping off the soapbox, we are moving on to item 7, or something like that. We have enrollments there for your information on pages 6 and 7. Any discussion on that? All right, item 8, approval of minutes for the May 2nd. We have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett? Yes. Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 9, business and finance. Do we have a motion for items number 1 through 6?
Motion to approve? Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Superintendent's report.
I'd like to recommend a resolution be adopted approving the personnel report as presented.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
We have Tammy Ciccarelli retiring.
Yes.
After many years.
Yes, assuming
Appreciate
that
your
you
service.
approve the personnel report, that's a big loss. Tammy Ciccarelli is our secretary at the primary center. She's an integral part of what goes on there every single day, and she will certainly be missed. And we certainly wish her well as
Certainly.
she moves on.
And Mark Simcoe is on there for promotion to IT director. He's been here many years. We appreciated his help. Done a great job for us.
Yeah, I'm not sure if transfer maybe was the right word. Mark is the assistant tech director, and I'm asking you to consider him for the technology director. As you know, our longtime technology director, Mr. Cormus, will be retiring. So we hope to transition Mark into that role effective July 1st.
He let me know that if we need, or Joe did, that if we needed any help with enforcement with Mark, just to let him know and that he could, step in.
I'm very happy, board, with the appointments that are on tonight's agenda.
How about that dynamic crew, huh?
Yeah, it's the professional appointments, and I shouldn't even say this out loud, but it's like an all-star team. I could not be more thrilled. The elementary interviews we did, the 3 final candidates that were put forward, every one of them was exceptional, and it just kind of worked out as people transitioned out that we were able to hire all 3. We did have a large number of applicants for the elementary jobs. That's the one position that we still get a good number of applicants, but I could not be more thrilled. And I hope to welcome back Marie Vizork, who was a teacher here for many years, and I'm asking you to consider bringing her back on board.
Nice to see her return. My
Yes.
daughter spent her
Yes.
senior year interning for her, and she's very inspired by her, and she really enjoyed it.
Yes.
So, welcome
And
back to Marie.
the biology job that's being offered is Dr. Jessica Fox. She is actually the head of the science department at Keystone University, and she wants to get back into the classroom. And we could not be more thrilled to maybe bring her on board.
Okay. Well, we have a motion, we have a second, we have an excited board. Are we ready to vote? All right. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Oshirik?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Abstain.
Mrs. Bennett?
Abstain.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Okay, moving on to committee reports. I don't believe we had any committee meetings since our last meeting. I do need to update one appointment on this list. So we have the intermediate unit representative listed as Lori Bennett. Lori asked to take a break from that because she's been representing the district at the IU meetings for many years. And Paula Eckert has volunteered to take that position unless or until Lori decides she wants it back. So we're changing that appointment from Lori Bennett to Paula Eckert. Any other committee meetings that need to be scheduled or discussed? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to unfinished business, which ironically, there's none. So we'll move on to new business. We have the first three items of the update on right to know request, which I know we do have an update, but also I'll make mention of the TASD visa account there for information only, and the summary of Kelly Services substitute teacher rate there for information only. And this should probably be one of our last ones with Kelly because we'll be changing to another organization for the next school year. But what is our update on the right to know request?
Right to know requests have exploded since the last board meeting.
Imagine.
We have received 35 since our last board meeting a couple weeks ago, which was, I think, May 2nd. And we've received 57 right to know requests for 23-24. 24 have been completed, 33 are yet to be answered. But like I said, we got 35 new ones from 2 different individuals. One person submitted, I think, 33 of them one evening, or 32 of them one evening. We have 3 appeals that have been filed with the Office of Open Records. 2 were denied, 1 was granted. So far, we spent approximately 32 hours processing requests. I'm going to tell you the requests we're working on right now are going to take upwards of 20 to 40 hours to complete. It's overwhelming, the information that's being asked for, and I hope it's not someone that's just doing that to intentionally try to overwhelm. I will tell you that the person that submitted the 33 of them to us one evening also did so to every other school district in IU 18 and is doing it across the state. So much so that the Office of Open Records and PSBA put out a position on their right to know requests. So we are reviewing that with Attorney Audi's firm.
How, do we have an update on how much we have spent?
So far, it's been $3,710 this year, but that will go up significantly.
This, if I may, this is a statewide issue. They're computer generated, they're FOIA bots, and our firm has, and so has the Right to Know office has put out some guidance, and our firm has also put out guidance on it. So, because we don't even know necessarily if they qualify to ask the question, because we don't know if they're a United States citizen, for that matter.
Right. If anybody has the ear of any of our local state congressmen and women or senators, there are bills out there, because no one on this panel has an issue with right to knows in general. The problem is when people use them as a weapon. It's called the Vexatious Requester Bill, and it is to take action against those who would, quote, go with a death by 1,000 paper cuts approach to trying to control government bodies and things like that. If you're not going to do what I want you to do, then I'm going to make it miserable for you to exist. So that is out there, and if you have the opportunity to advocate on behalf of that, we would appreciate it.
And you would, you taxpayers.
Yes, as would your taxpayers, because we have spent probably close to $1 million over the last several years on simply legal fees. Definitely a mill if you count in our costs of labor for the people who work for the district who would be paid anyway, but they're spending their time working on those things as opposed to working on things that actually benefit students in the community.
Like one of the 33, for instance, was every IT contract with every third-party vendor. Like when you start getting into the contracts that we have, and we have some that are very small and some that are very large, like our student information system, but it's enormous. Like it's enormous.
And as Mark brought up this week in a conversation that we were having, it's not just a matter of compiling that information and handing it over. It has to be redacted because sometimes how big is cybersecurity as an issue right now? You can't have every piece of information about every cyber program and security feature that you have for your computer programs be available and accessible to anybody who asks for it, because that puts the district at great vulnerability. I don't even know if Scranton has internet back yet. I didn't think they were supposed to have it back this school year, but they were the victims of cyber hacking and could not use any technology in their district for the rest of the year. And there are parents who I'm sure would be like, oh great, no Chromebooks. But no, it's not just no Chromebooks. Like the telephones run off of voice IP, right? Like you don't have internet, you don't have email addresses, you don't have telephones in the buildings when this happens. So, I mean, there's security reasons why that information wouldn't be available, and that's why it all has to go through the legal offices. So we're paying legal fees to review those documents before they could be turned over. And you figured not just us, but every district is doing that right now in IU 18 and 19 for the sake of I don't even know what. But.
And or if there's student names, for instance, included or student information in something, that can't be released. That's private.
Yeah.
So, but that's effort to get it redacted.
Any other comment or discussion on items 1, 2, or 3 under new business? Moving along, we have the first reading of the policies A through F there. There will be no vote. That's just first reading. They'll be on the next month's meeting for approval. Any comments, questions, or edits anybody wants to see to those?
No, what's interesting I want to point out is there was one of them that, some of them are just updates. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there are just updates. The last one, like now we have to get into the AI. We have to jump in because it's being used everywhere. So we're going to start putting guidelines in place for artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Yes, we definitely want students to learn how to use that productively.
Correct.
All right, item 5, motion to approve the 24 through 27 flexible instruction program application as presented.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? And this is a requirement to update this plan every 3 years because our approval to use flexible instruction days only lasts for the period of the last plan.
Correct, right? We have to approve this so we have the option of using FID days over the next 3 school years.
Great. All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 6, motion to approve a settlement agreement and release between TASD and students number 4239369819 and student number 43641595549.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 7, motion to approve a contract between TASD and Children's Service Center of Wyoming Valley, Inc. to provide behavioral health services.
I would just like to point out that this is for Cammie Anderson services.
Right. Which should need no defending, but I feel like it is worth mentioning that that is what it is because there are so many students in our district that count on you and look up to you, and it has been a long time, and we are very lucky to have you here.
They think she works for us, which is awesome. She has an office here in the building. She provides, drug and alcohol resources and counseling. But the students, she has an outstanding relationship with students. She helps a lot of people, and that's what this contract. This is a very important contract.
No, and she's here after hours. She, I believe, I didn't go, but I was informed that you were at the Narcan giveaway last Sunday with the district attorney's office, so the dedication to the students of our school district is strong.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Absolutely, we're getting a good deal. All right, item 8, motion to approve an intergovernmental agreement between TASD and LIU 18 for the 24-25 school year.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. I'm going to, unless there's any opposition, put the next two together because they're both financial. The first is the motion to approve the applications for payments for Scranton Electric Heating and Cooling. There's 2 of those. And the motion to approve a budget transfer as presented for $600 for athletics.
Motion to approve?
Second.
It's a motion to approve 9 and 10. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 11, motion to approve the payout of remaining personal time as of 6/7/2024 to food service staff.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Didn't we do this last?
We did the sick time, but we didn't specifically say personal time, so.
Gotcha.
All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 12, motion to approve the donation of a DIY plant shelf with grow light shelf with adjustable rack and wheels, plant stand, 8-pack of 192 watt T8 3000K full spectrum grow lights for seed starting and seed tray. This is being donated by Maya Montross, and this is for her Girl Scouts Gold Award. She's the student who put in the butterfly garden at the PC
Yes.
over the last week or two. So that was a huge project, much bigger than I had pictured it when we approved it. So that's great. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Is it going to the PC, the donation?
Yes. Yep. Hmm? No. And again, I believe Mr. Pratt has agreed to take on this project. And for anybody not familiar, the Girl Scouts Gold Award project is the equivalent in Girl Scouts to the Eagle Scout Award for Boy Scouts. So it's quite the accomplishment. We have a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, I don't know what'll happen here. Nomination, motion to approve a school board treasurer to serve a 1-year term beginning the first day of July 2024. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate John Burke.
Imagine that.
Someday somebody will want it.
We have a second for that nomination. Are any other nominations coming in?
Same salary as last year.
Yes.
Zero.
Paula.
0.
Thank you.
So
I am honored.
that was a nomination and motion, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Phil, a second from Paula. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Lastly on our agenda, motion to approve me as our TASD voting delegate at the 2024 PSBA Delegate Assembly in November.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Excuse me, roll call, please.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, we'll open the floor. Same rules as earlier. For the additional public comments, it does not have to be limited to the agenda items. No? None? Bill? Did we keep everybody alive since May 2nd? All right, any other board comments?
One thing real quick.
Rob Perry wouldn't like it, I was speaking at the end, but I do. I ran some quick numbers because of the questions around the solar project and kind of what you were trying to articulate, Holly. And so I looked at 5 years, and so you take the last 5 school years, and so our expenses are up about 19% during that time, which sounds like a lot. But if we compare that to inflation, that's up 25% over that period of time, and we lost headcount of about 300 students. And so when we look at tax increases over that same period and compare that, tax increases are just shy of 11%, 10.7. And so we're less than half of what the inflation rate is. So when you take that into account for where our revenue comes from, about 50% of our revenue comes from local, and so that's our taxpayers here in this room and elsewhere in the county. Those local revenues actually only went up 1% in total dollars. So we've raised 11% from a millage perspective, but it doesn't translate into more dollars that comes to the school district. That's for a couple of different reasons. We lost a couple of players, some of the props, some folks have left the area, et cetera, et cetera. And so we do run a challenging place to live because of migration. And so people are moving south and west, and so that puts a real challenge. Then you add on to the fact that you have shrinking family sizes. So, and I think the number in 75, and I'm kind of coming off these off the top of my head, I think the number in 75 for enrollment in Tunkhannock was somewhere around 4,500. And today it's just shy of 2,000.
That's 1975.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you think about how the school has changed during that period. And then we look at our state revenues during that same period. I said local was up 1, state was only up 2.5%, and that's because of reduction of students. And so we're trying to come up with projects and ideas and things like solar, like we're doing with the cafeteria, and it was a consolidation. It's all these hard decisions because trying to run the same and similar programs with less students in an inflationary environment becomes very, very tough. So I just wanted folks to have some of that data. You can quote me on most of this. We'll see. We're going to do some fact checking on what I said. But I just wanted folks to understand that we are doing everything we can to control expenses. And a project like solar, based on the rate of returns that we projected, I think is going to pay out in probably 6 to 7 years. It's a huge help for us to offset those future tax increases that are there, because that's really what we're trying to do. Thank you.
That's great information, John. Thanks. That's why you're the treasurer, by the way.
Thanks.
So, all right, any other board comment? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Ah,
Second.
there it is.